Trese was created by Cadjo Baldissimo and Budgetan, and it's originally a graphic novel that was published in the Philippines. It was made into a TV series in Netflix, and Budgetan and Cadjo Baldissimo was actually the showrunner. They're from the Philippines, and I'm very, 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 very proud of it because that's my country, that's my own. So the thing is that I haven't actually read the entire comic book. So when I watched the series, I was actually watching it with fresh eyes. I've heard of what the story was about, but haven't really read the entire comic book. So this is with a fresh perspective. This is without any influence of the actual comic book. So these are 5 things that I liked about it and 5 things that I didn't. Let's start with 5 things that I like about it. It's sort of an intro to Philippine mythology, and the Philippine mythology really is one of the richest mythology that you can ever read about. We have so many stories, so many characters that are so colorful. The background stories, you know, the characterizations are just a stunning mythology, and they were able to sort of introduce different. They were able to include in the story many of our mythical characters. So I like that because it's very, very unique. We're the only ones with those kinds of characters. So very, very proud of that. Second is that it's the lead is a female character. Yay! So that's a win, of course. Very, very progressive. I'm a female, so I feel very, very proud. But I think also is that they were able to create a character without the stereotypical nuances of having a female lead, if you know what I mean. She was not projected and written with the stereotypical weaknesses that come with being a woman. She has the strength and fighting ability and stance that are usually associated with men. So I'm very happy with the way they projected a female character. Third is that the story in itself actually incorporates 2 very and so I'll separate them. So it incorporates 2 very strong Filipino traits. One is it is grounded on the belief that the supernatural beings actually coexist with us. That's how we believe in the Philippines. That there's a lot of spirits and different types of supernatural beings basically that coexist with us, and that we don't always see them, but we actually coexist with them. So that's a very Filipino, Filipino belief basically. Next is loyalty. It is reflected. Royalty is a very strong Filipino trait, and it is grounded in debt of gratitude or utang na loob. So debt of gratitude. When somebody does something good for us, when somebody does a favor for us or helps us in one way or another, we treat that as a lifetime of debt that we need to be grateful for. Like that, we don't forget that ever, and we always try our best to repay that tenfold. So that's why there's a sense of loyalty, because once you do something for us, we will forever hold it in our hearts and be grateful for that forever. And that's why we have such strong bond with each other. So this is reflected in Trese as well. So the relationship of the twins to Trese, to Alexandra, the relation Alexandra to her parents, she's very, very loyal to them, and then all the people that work with her parents are still with her, and that's a very, very Filipino trait. That's why our families are really, really large, because we don't ever forget people that have, once you've become a part of our lives, we will forever treat you as if you're a part of our family forever. Okay, so so that's a very, very Filipino value. Next is they've opened a lot of possibilities. They've opened some storylines that they didn't really fully close. So it gives them a lot of opportunities to develop the stories more in the future. So next is the things that I didn't like all that much. One is that I feel like in their effort to put in as many mythological characters as they could, they weren't able to explore the stories of the mythological characters. And it's really in the exploration of the characters that you develop a relationship with the audience. You catch the relationship, the audience affection and recognition and respect and connection when you explain more about the background of a character. And that's what I felt was kind of missing. Like for me, it was easy for me to understand who these characters are, this mythological characters are, because I'm familiar with our own mythology. But if you're watching it from a perspective of somebody who don't know what this mythological stories are, you're kind of missing it. I felt like they were put there just to serve a purpose in the story, and then they're forgotten. So I would have wanted more characterizations for each of the story. I've said this once, and in one of my past videos, there's such power in being able to explore one character. I remember in this movie, I still can't remember what movie, but I think it was a Mel Gibson movie for sure. But there was this character, I think it was a boyfriend of his daughter, who was really loud. He was just a loud person in general. And I think at one point he was asked like why he was so loud. He would talk so loudly, and he said that he grew up in the Bronx, and in the Bronx there's always shooting happening, like actually people shooting each other, and they were always instructed to drop to the floor when shooting is happening. When they hear a gun firing, then they need to drop on the floor. And there was always shooting. Somebody was always shooting somebody, that they would always be on the floor. And he did everything on the floor. He slept on the floor, studied on the floor, ate on the floor, and now he hates the floor. And so he said that he became a police officer not because he hated the crime, but because he hated the floor. And that was it was one scene, and it was like 5 seconds. I took longer explaining it than he did delivering it, but it made me learn who he is. Like I finally understood who this person is, and that's all it took for me to feel that connection with him. And that's all I really need in this Philippine mythological characters that they featured in the special. I don't need them to tell me the entire mythology, but give me something to latch on with these characters. And I think that they didn't. I felt like they just were trying to put in as many as they can. There was also, there was this one scene when she said, Alexandra Trese said, "Tabi tabi po," and that means please give way, excuse me, or something like that. Now there's like a superstition in the Philippines that when you go to mountains or places where it's not fully developed, you actually have to ask the nuno or the dwarves to let you pass. Because if you don't, you might step on their property or on them, and they're going to curse you in return. So you always say that when you go to forests and mountains, you say "tabi tabi po," which is excuse me. And I just felt like it was a failed opportunity to capture, because many times in cinema or in TV, all you need is a unique treatment into something to make people latch onto something. For example, in Squid Games, you have that doll where she would actually do this creepy movement when she would turn her head around and look at people, and then whoever she spots moving, she would shoot. So, and I felt like that was an opportunity to give that moment a unique treatment, to make that powerful enough for people to recall. Make that like a hook, sort of a hook, to make people remember that and make them interested, or make them say it again and again. Make that scene memorable, basically. But it was just not memorable for me. Okay, third is fight scenes. I felt it was really lacking in that department. I was hoping they would incorporate more Filipino fighting styles, maybe arnis, the butterfly knife, because she's Filipino and the entire story is very Filipino. So I thought maybe in the fight scene, one of the unique ways they can make it unique is to actually incorporate many of the Filipino weapons and Filipino fight practices, but they didn't do that. Okay, and also just the fight scenes, I just felt, even if they, let's say they didn't incorporate Filipino weapons and Filipino fighting styles, then maybe it's just, you know, something more dynamic, something unique in treatment. I just didn't feel that. Next is the production design. I was kind of hoping that there would be more Filipino architecture, Filipino styles, Filipino aesthetics. We have 120 ethno-linguistics groups. We have different aesthetics, you know, different clothes, different the accessories, and I was hoping they would incorporate that more in her clothes, in the houses where they're in different places, in their accessories, maybe tattoos, even the mask that the two twins are wearing. I was hoping they would use a mask that's well established or connected to Philippines. Next is just that I don't feel, although this may be intentional, but at the end of it, I was just wondering, where did this ability come from? How did Alexandra Trese's family get this handed to them? Is it like a curse? Like, were they what, descendants of gods and goddesses? What happened? How did the family become the connection between the supernatural world and the human world? There was some sort of explanation, but that explanation, I was still looking for I was looking for a background of the background story basically. So it wasn't the full picture for me. So those are 5. So 5 things that I liked and 5 things that I didn't like, but I'm still very, very proud of it. I still think I would I want to go back to the Philippines for a visit, and maybe will be able to get hold of the actual comic books and read it. Maybe it's going to be very different from the Netflix series, but I would still recommend it. I still think it's good. Thank you.